What are the patterns that you keep seeing again and again when you work with athletes?
Yeah. So in the last, I would say, just for context, in the last 2 years,
Mm,
I've worked with, in the last 2 years, probably about 2,500 athletes now. And that's been through workshops. So I
yes.
deliver workshops to teams and groups, which allows
Hmm.
me to have that mass audience, right? I've not done 2,500
101.
one-to-ones. There's just not enough time in the day for that. So the workshop structure has been amazing because we've been able to get out and see and feel it on the ground, but also online. Obviously, that's the beauty of this, right? We're in two opposite countries right now, and we'll be able to do this. So the themes are very consistent across the board. Young athletes are one, not educated. So without education, there's a lack of awareness. And if you're not aware of something, you don't really understand it, right? And I think awareness is the first step when trying to um, influence change within
Hmm.
yourself, but within a wider group. And I think most young professionals, so let's say if I was to look at like 18 or 21 downwards, because of the lack of awareness and because of the lack of education, they've always obviously relied on their autonomic response to breathing, right? Their habitual response, and no one has ever told them how to breathe. So, one of the first questions I ask is like, has anyone ever told you how to breathe for performance?
Hmm.
And there'll be no in the whole team. On average, I probably have one person put their hand up, and then they go, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then that's it, right? That's all they've ever been told, right? And so I'm like, okay, cool. I now know where where we are on the ground and what the education level is. So when it comes to signs and patterns, um, habitual response to breathing is going to be common and also needed, right? That's why we're alive right now. Like sometimes we force the control of the breath and we do all these different techniques all the time. And it's like, well, there's so many factors like, influencing breathing from the nervous system, from your external reality and their environment they're in. These are high performing individuals. These are pressurized environments consistently, right? So it's not necessarily always, oh, you're a dysfunctional breather because you breathe through your mouth. It's more, okay, what is your environment and how is that influencing the way you breathe? Because if I believe if there's an office worker who's sedentary most of the day and they're breathing through their mouth all the time, that's going to be very different to what an athlete's doing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we miss that. I think we miss the gap between both, and we sort of put everyone in the same box of needing to breathe one way all the time. So I think context is really important when working with these athletes. When it comes to sleep habits are really bad because of the environment that they're in. Night games, a lot of travel on buses, planes, even time zones. We've dealt with players with jet lag. How do we, mitigate the onset of jet lag as well, and the sort of like the recovery time periods after traveling is really important because they've never thought about their breath. Typically, yes, they are relying on the stress response. So if I had to get them to do a breath hold without any instructions, the first thing that they will do, of course, will gasp. They'll open the mouth. They'll use the chest. They'll use the shoulders. They'll come straight into their habitual response. So before sometimes I get them to breathe functionally after it, I want them to understand the differences between their habitual response of what they're doing at the moment. There's no guidance from me. All I'll say is inhale through the nose, exhale out of the nose, pinch and hold the nose until the first sign comes to breathe within the body and mind. Release and just breathe however you would normally breathe. And typically 80 to 90% of those people, it will be that response through the mouth because that's what their environment has basically primed them to deal with. Because yes, we need the mouth at certain points, of course, and footballers need to mouth breathe at times. They do when their heart's in the red zone and they need to ventilate the body in the fastest way possible, not necessarily the most functional, but the fastest way possible. They rely on that habit. So even as I sit here, as a functional breathing master instructor for the oxygen advantage, I also understand that there is a certain level of give and take when it comes to breathing.